I'm Jayla LaGarde, and I'm here with Mr. Frank Daley and Mr. Travis Freeman. One is a serviceman, and he is a safety conductor. So I want to hear a little bit about yourselves. Would you be willing to share?
Yes, ma'am. So, as you mentioned, my name is Travis Freeman. I am the safety coordinator at Coast Electric. Just about to make 18 years working there, and great company, great organization. I actually started out in the line crews, and then became a serviceman, and then worked my way up to safety coordinator. And it's a great company to work for. We provide a service that was once a luxury, but is obviously a necessity now. So, providing for the communities for a much needed service.
Sure.
Yeah, my name's Frank Daley, and I've been at Coast Electric now almost 20 years. I started in the line crew as well as Mr. Freeman, and worked that. Then I went into the service department, and now I'm in there. In the service department, it's kind of like a trouble department. You go out and you try to find the trouble that we have on the line, take care of the members. You know, it's just, you kind of get a good feeling being able to take care of that for the people and everything.
So what degrees and certifications do you need to be a safety conductor or serviceman?
Well, for safety coordinator, it's a lot of it has to do with knowing the industry. Like I said, I came up in the industry, so that's where you learn the safe work practices, and there's certifications that go along with it. For instance, I have a CLCP certification, which is a Certified Loss Control Professional, and that's something that I acquired after I got into safety. So there's always continued education once you're in there, just the same as a lineman or a serviceman. I mean, it's continued learning. You're always going to run across something that perhaps you haven't seen before. And but I'll let Frankie speak on the lineman aspect of it. There is a journeymanship process or a apprenticeship process that you go through to make your way to journeyman.
That is correct on that. It is a 4-year program. You go through an apprenticeship program, and then you go into a lineman program that is 2 years. And then you become a journeyman lineman, and then once you become a journeyman lineman, basically you're lateral with the serviceman or a troubleshooter at that time.
6 years.
6 years.
Of on-the-job training.
Basically, that's right.
Because you know, in this industry too, I mean, it's a lot of extensive training. It's an unforgiving industry. If you make a bad mistake, well, you may not have a second chance, you know, with that. We're working with 14,400 volts of electricity, and in the grand scheme of things, it takes milliamps to disrupt your heart, you know. So really, that high number tends to freak people out. You know, 14,000 is a high number, but at the end of the day, the amount of amps that it takes to light up a light bulb could also, you know, be fatal for humans.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, sir.
So to follow up on that, what safety precautions does Coast Electric take?
So, for example, before any job begins, every job's different. Before any job begins, where there's more than one person involved, there's what we call a tailgate discussion or a pre-job briefing. And one person takes charge to explain, you know, what are the safe work practices that we're going to utilize to complete this job. But then there's also things that we got to remember, like what if an incident occurs? You've got to be prepared for that situation, right? So if you've got a plan in place, it helps keep chaos down. So for instance, they may say, Frankie, you're going to be in charge of calling 911. Know our exact location. That may be a landmark, if not an address. So you go through all these steps that, you know, at the end of the day may seem kind of nitpicky, but it's just to remind us of the things that we've got to remember to make it through the job safe, because whenever chaos erupts or an emergency erupts, if no one has any clear direction, then it's just going to be that chaos. So you discuss all the steps of the job, who's going to be in charge of what, and you just lay a clear path out for everybody.
So what advantages do you have, like with your certain job as serviceman and safety?
Well, on the service truck, it's I do have a certain area that I work, but it's a constant roaming job, constantly moving around, seeing different things, in different areas, within my service area. That would be an advantage, I guess, on the trouble truck. And then just being able to, again, being able to help the members with trouble, or if they, you might have a elderly lady that needs a yard light up. She wants a yard light up. And so, you go out and you put a yard light up for the lady, and she's just as happy as can be whenever you leave. It's just that. And then, in the case of a storm, when you're out working storm work, it's, being able to get the power back on for people. They appreciate it so much. And just to see them, get, happy that they have power back on after being without for days.
It's heartfelt. Are there any disadvantages?
Again, on the service truck, it does have some disadvantages. I work my 40-hour week Monday through Friday. And then after that, it's a call-by-call basis. If there is trouble, you have to go out, and take care of that trouble. And, it might be, I've had to leave here in the middle of a football game and go on a trouble call while my son's out on the football field playing football. So, that holidays, you might have to get up in the middle of a holiday meal and go so you can turn somebody's power back on. And so, it does have some disadvantages.
So what could you tell the students about your jobs? Like, what do you want the students to think will go into your career path? What would you want to tell them?
Well, I tell you, I worked construction before I worked at Coast Electric. And I was laid off from that. And actually driving home that day, I told myself, I said, I need a job that's going to be there tomorrow. I don't want something else that I'm going to worry about this happening on or anything. And in the utility industry like this, it's going to be needed. It's, people joke about robots taking us over. I don't ever see that happening. I don't see that happening in the electrical line work position.
So to follow up on that, how does Coast Electric handle hurricanes?
So we annually have what we call a dry run. It's just to prepare. Every May, the company actually shuts down and sets aside a full day, and it's a day that we're pretending that a hurricane has hit, and everybody has roles and responsibilities to make the process work smoothly. And so we'll spend a full day just practicing, and then of course revamping that plan if we need to. But there's so many moving parts to it. For instance, Frankie may be assigned to like a substation where he'll report there the morning of work beginning, and he's got a work process that he'll go through. For me personally, in my role, I report to the Eastern District, which is Harrison County. Coast Electric serves Harrison, Hancock, and Pearl River counties, where we have roughly 90,000 members. But I report to the Harrison County office, and I just play a role with logistics, helping outside help as they arrive, because typically when a hurricane hits, if it's a bad one, it's a little too much for just Coast Electric to handle. So you have all outside help coming from as far as maybe even Pennsylvania. We had line workers from Canada, I believe, that were down after Katrina hit. So we prepare for events like that through having a plan and practicing it and doing that annually, and it's always prior to hurricane season in May.
So what is the salary as a safety conductor and a surveyor?
So the safety coordinator and the lineman positions are my title along with Frankie's. The pay is right there the same. Frankie had mentioned earlier the apprenticeship process that a lineman goes through. So starting out, you have 4 years to be work your way through the apprenticeship process. That pay range can begin at, say, just over $18 an hour, and then by the end of the 4th year, you're around $30 an hour. And then you have 2 steps after that, which is called Lineman 2 and Lineman 1, which is your additional 2 years to complete that 6-year apprenticeship process. And that pay will go from like a $32 an hour to around close to 40, I believe. And then journeyman status, once you've made that, you'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of $43, $44 an hour. And so the safety coordinator position, I'd mentioned that a lot of the experience comes from working your way through that process that we just talked about. And so that pays right there, kind of close to that.
I have one final question. So, I mean, all of us see the trucks and y'all are fixing the boxes, but how far up does it rise? I mean,
The truck
how hard
itself.
does it go? No, I mean the latch, like where the men like rise up. How far does that go up? Low bar.
Okay.
Yeah, how far the bucket itself goes
Yes,
up,
yes.
it varies. It varies.
Okay.
We have the truck that I have. It goes up. It's 48 feet. I think I have a new truck coming in next year. I think it's going to be a 50-foot boom. The line trucks, of course, they're a lot further than that.
65,
Yeah,
I think.
65. I think. Is,
Wow.
yeah, about 65. I think is probably the tallest one we have in our Harrison County district.
But it's always
So-
important to remember that he's got a set of hooks in his truck that can bring him up as high as he needs to, because we do still climb poles too, like you see. Because you can't always get a truck to a pole.
Correct. Back to a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So it does happen. Like, yeah, and that back on what he just said, that's just part of the job. You might have to put the hooks on, you might have to climb up, and you can go as far as you want to go with those. We don't like to, but sometimes we have
I
to.
wouldn't like to either. I'm scared of heights.
Sometimes we have to, but
Yeah.
that's just part of the job. You have a safety harness on, and you're strapped to the bucket and all. So it's anybody that gets hurt doing that, they were not following safety
That's
guidelines. So
Okay, that's it for today. Thank you all
Awesome.
so much for joining us.
thank y'all for having us.